Hey everybody! If you've seen my other videos, I think it's fair to say that I'm pretty limited in my fashion styles I choose for my character art. And if you're new, um, I'm bad at drawing clothes. So I've decided to at least attempt to remedy that. Have you seen those drawings made by fashion designers? Because that's what I'm going for. I stumbled upon a series of videos on drawing fashion design by Justine Leconte, and decided to give it a shot. I've linked her channel down below, so check her out. First things first, the body. She talks about how women are generally 7 to 8 heads tall on average, but that she was taught in school that fashion designers should use like 10 or like even 12 heads, which talk about unrealistic beauty standards. Damn. And while I would have preferred to keep it to like 7 heads, I decided to really lean into the fashion designer style and draw with 10 heads as my reference, because that's what all her videos used. So I took a cheap sketchbook with thin paper and divided the paper into 10 roughly head length segments and a vertical center line, which she called the plumb line. It's essentially a line that helps you keep poses balanced. The first segment was the head. At 1.5 were the shoulders, 3.5 the waist, 4.5 the widest part of the hips, 6.5 the knees, and the last segment contains the ankles and feet. If you're drawing a figure completely straight and unposed, that is. I took out the guide that I had made and placed it underneath a new page so that I could lay out that exact figure and have a nice base. And if I'm being honest, even though it's more stretched out than I'm accustomed to drawing, this was extremely helpful with anatomy. I feel like I have a far better understanding and that I've built up at least some muscle memory, as opposed to the last video I made. There are certain curves and corners of the body that I hadn't taken into account before doing this as well. For instance, the triangles between the neck and the shoulder joints, the connections between the bust and the waist and the hips, all made so much more sense after doing this. I sketched it all out and then inked it over with a Tombow marker so that it would be visible when I put it under a new page to draw an outfit. I didn't ink every single joint and circle, just the general outline, as the purpose of this base is to be able to draw outfits on top of them. And I think I forgot to mention that. Oops. Oh well, I'm mentioning it now. The video I watched showed that she had a few pose templates she would use underneath blank pages when she was designing outfits, which I think is a really good idea, thus why I'm creating my own. Once I've gotten the base figure and 2 posed figures done, that's when I'll start designing the actual outfits, so skip to the time that flashes on screen if you want to skip to that part. Okay, that's the finished base. I'm happy with it. Now time to experiment. For my first posed figure, I start by drawing a line that goes on both sides of the center line and then start adjusting the benchmarks to fit the bending of the body. I wasn't 100% certain where I was taking this, but I knew I wanted it to be pretty exaggerated and kinda sassy, meaning wide stance, tilted head, one hand on hip, and the other hand stretched out long, like a little sassy flick. Looking at it now, I think the head might be tilted a little too far, but then again, this is how they stylize fashion drawings, so I guess it's not too obvious if the point of the art is to showcase the outfit and not the face. I mean, I drew faces for all my pieces in the end anyway, but that's besides the point. I had a lot of fun with this one, though I think I could have done better with the outstretched hand. But since it's just a base, I'm not too worried about it. Okay, 2 bases done. I want to do one more before moving on to designing outfits, so just stick with me through this last one. In fact, this pose is a bit less of a statement than the first one. I kept them standing straight, but with both hands lying flat on either side of their waist. I couldn't decide what to do with the leg that wasn't centering the pose, but in the end I decided to draw it bent, creating a triangle shape to complement the 2 triangle shapes made by the model's hands in the upper half of the pose. And as a quick tip for those of you who might like to try drawing this, or drawing bases, don't try to get the curves perfect, especially when it comes to extremities like hands or feet. It can take some trial and error to figure out how much you can get away with when exaggerating the lines, but please know that it doesn't have to be super detailed. These are just meant to help design outfits in a more efficient way. And done! By the way, sorry that the heads of the figures don't make it into frame. I couldn't put the camera further away, and I was using larger paper than usual, and I don't have a viewfinder, so I don't know what is or isn't in frame while I'm filming. I try my best, but sometimes stuff like this just happens. Okay, outfit time, finally. I decided to do one outfit per pose that I made, including the straight-laced one, which is the one I started with. I tried planning the type of outfit off to the side, but I found that it wasn't super helpful, so I just started sketching the shirt directly onto the body. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to draw aside from the vague notion of a crop top though, so I literally threw something on and then moved on to the bottom half where I definitely knew what I wanted to draw. Ripped cut-off jeans and fishnets, which came nice and easy to me. To keep it as interesting as I could with a stiff pose, I decided to make the fishnets asymmetrical, one leg going down to the ankle and the other stopping at about mid-thigh. When I came back to the shirt, I decided it could be an average crop tee with a dropped shoulder, since I have a hard time balancing levels of detail when it comes to tops. I also gave her some bracelets because I felt like it. And for shoes, I just drew some generic combat boots, both untied with one having the tongue folded over, again, just for visual interest. Before moving on to inking, I did quickly draw a face and a short undercut style, though I'll admit I didn't want to spend much time on that since this exercise was more about designing outfits than the character itself. That's for another time. Pretty soon, actually. Anyway, inking it went pretty easily, even though the Tombow marker I'm using is a lot thicker than I'm used to. This feels like an outfit someone would wear to a rave or a party in the 80s. Either way, I'd totally wear it if I had the pieces it was made of. Does that date me? It shouldn't, because I'm definitely not that old. The boots are unfortunately cut from frame, but I promise that they came out just fine. They look exactly like how you would expect combat boots to look. Overall, I think I succeeded in making it look interesting. With that done, I move on to the first, more exaggerated pose that I created. Since to me it felt more like a stage silhouette, I went with a showman-style sort of outfit. Or at least, how I think of one. I have no idea what I'm talking about, if you couldn't tell. I'm sure it'd be helpful to look at outfits on Pinterest or clothing store catalogs, but I really wanted to try and come up with something myself. I based the pants on a pair of shorts that I have 2 rows of buttons and are navy blue. It's a nice style that I like a lot, whatever that style is. And if you know what it's called, please let me know. As for the rest of the look, I went for a deep plunge neckline with some straps between that and the collar of the shirt. And then I drew gloves on her hands that had buttons to match her pants, and some tall riding boots, because why not? It was here that I basically redrew the hand based on the figure beneath, since I knew I had messed up there previously. I cared very little about the face and hair for this one, and I think unfortunately that shows. It's not too bad, but I know I could have done better. That being said, I think it blends in well with the style I was going for, so I'm not super mad about it. I lined it like the rest, and with that, completed the second outfit. It was around here that my phone almost died. I checked it before starting the third one and noticed the battery was at 5%. So I stopped filming and charged it while I drew the last outfit. No worries, you'll see it towards the end here as I show off all 3 in succession. All in all, this was fun to try out for myself. I've never been particularly drawn towards the fashion designer style, but I do admit it's helped me plan outfits in a much easier way. I'll probably use these again to plan outfits before I put them onto my actual illustrations if I think it's going to be complicated. And let me know if you try this out too. I'm curious. Here are the 3 outfits that I made. The last one is hard to tell since I used such a thick marker, but I was imagining a crocheted shirt with a flower pattern in the midsection and braided frays trailing from the bottom of it. Paired with the wide flared pants, it's a pretty 70s inspired look that I actually think looks really nice. Let me know which one was your favorite, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye bye!